Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for being here. This is wonderful. Make sure you partake in the delicious breakfast we have. It's been sponsored by Arthur Griffin. The breakfast is sponsored this morning by Arthur Griffin. And if anyone else would like to sponsor breakfast, we'd like to hear from you. Okay? You got May? Oh, wow. Do I hear June? You got June. Okay, thank you. Okay, that's fine.
You got plenty of time. I'll take it all in this time. Y'all going.
Okay, you said you had April.
May for mental health awareness month.
You said June.
Huh?
Y'all don't do July.
No, May.
She's May, and he said June.
Go ahead, man.
April.
April is no health vacation. May is no health vacation.
No, I said we got May and June. We just did April. I didn't know if can you do it in April or not. It's okay.
Let me get back with you.
Okay, thank you. Wow, this is how you know you asked And if anyone would like to use the same caterer, her cards are on the table back there. She's very, I think she was like 275. Okay, good morning again. Okay, I'm Mary Thompson and I will be facilitating this morning. We're so happy to have you here. Welcome to Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Morning Forum. The additional facilitators are Laura McCletty, and she's sitting right here. We have Carlinia Ivory Canty, we have Jackie Edwards Walton, Nathalie McGarrath, Winston Robinson, Steve Johnston, Thomas Moore, our physician. Thank you so much. And do we have anyone here for the first time? Oh, I'm sorry, Shay. You know what? I'm looking at my old thing here before we got everybody. Shay's here. Thank you. And Steve. Did I say Steve? Thank you, Steve. Did I say Gary? I saw Gary somewhere in here. Oh, did I? Oh, the front row. I'm sorry. I didn't get for weekend. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. Do we have anyone here for the first time? Okay, could you stand and just say who you are?
Good morning, my name is Walter Hall. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Walter Hall, Executive Director of Student Placement and Planning for Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools.
Did you say student assignment?
Student Placement. Student Placement.
Oh.
Student Placement Director.
Oh, okay. I got you. Thank you. Okay, anyone else here for the first time? Thank you. Okay, this forum runs until 10 o'clock in the morning, and we usually stop around maybe 9:50 for announcements. And we are, let me get this, I'm sorry. I need to get my phone out because we have Ms. Kim Graham here with us today, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about her. But after she's speaking, she's going to tell her story, and we want to hear it. And then we're going to take questions from the audience. And remember that you are to raise your hand if you have a question, and I will call on you in the order that you raise your hand. Okay, so we'll do it that way. Nathalie is normally our timekeeper, but as you can see, we have a new timekeeper this morning. So you'll see she'll rate, 30 seconds for your question. Please, 30 seconds for your question. Okay. this. I wanna do Kim right this morning by saying everything that is right about her because she is so wonderful. Okay, so today we have Kim Graham. Ms. Kim Graham, she is the executive director, right? Okay, of the Greater Charlotte Apartment Association. Kim Graham joined the Greater Charlotte Apartment Association in December of 2018. Previously, she served as Senior Vice President for Outreach and Fund Development with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Housing Partnership, now Dream Key Partners, having primary oversight of CMHP's community engagement, marketing, communications, and fund development, and she contributed to historic levels. She has made numerous civic contributions in the Charlotte region, including serving as president of the Mecklenburg PTA Council, which provides governance to the more than 150 parent groups in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. Okay. She also currently co-chairs the city's Neighborhood Equity and Stabilization Commission and serves as vice chair of the Housing Collaborative Board of Directors. She's a native of Philadelphia. She holds a Master's of Public Administration from the University of North Carolina in Charlotte and a bachelor's degree from Johnson C. Smith University. JC? Okay. Now, I have asked Mr. Ken Kuntz to give us a word of prayer this morning, as we do before every forum.
I had a talk with God this morning. He said, well, you know, if you go up there, they're gonna ask you to pray, you know. I'm gonna listen to you, but you need to tell them, you and me, we got problems. So, y'all keep on asking, I'm gonna keep on praying, and maybe y'all pray for me. You'll be in a better standing. But, this is another great day, and I'm always rejoicing and happy in it. And though sometimes the progress of that day makes you pretty sad, and the situations we're facing right now, sometimes you have reasons to be sad, but also every reason to be sad is another reason to rejoice, because we have a relationship with the man who can make it all right.
Yes, sir.
So, with that said, let's talk to the man that can make it all right, including my relationship with him. Lord, this is another day that you have made, and we have an opportunity to rejoice and be glad in it, but we also have an opportunity, Lord, to allow you into our hearts, from our hearts to others, to make things better for those less fortunate. And for those who are more fortunate, oh God, to soften their hearts, that they may also come into a better and stronger relationship with you. Lord, we thank you for all that you do, all that you have done, and all that you will do. Even some of the things that you allow, we may not understand, but by and by, it all will be clear. But for this day, Lord, we say thank you and ask you to be with us in each and everything that we do or say. Amen.
Amen. Okay, before we begin, I wanted to say one more thing about the second Tuesday of the month is when we start at 7:30. So we have networking and we have breakfast only on that particular Tuesday, okay? So if you know of your friends and your co-workers, and especially these young people who are up and coming in their businesses and jobs, invite them to come on the second Tuesday. We like to have them every Tuesday, but if you can invite them to come at 7:30 on the second Tuesday of the month, tell them we have breakfast for them and they'll have a chance to network. Network. Okay, so I'm gonna let you get started, Ms. Graham.
So good morning, everyone. This is so weird being in this space, as small as it is, using a microphone, but I'm gonna do it because I'm sure it's for the folks who are live streaming the one person who's live streaming is my mother. So good morning, Mom. I did ask her to watch this, and she said absolutely she would, because I'm going to talk about her. Great, thank you. Excellent prayer. My professional journey, I'm going to speak about as a faith journey. And so I feel as if the mood was set for me to talk about my professional journey as a faith journey, because that's what it is. I do want to thank the Tuesday Morning Breakfast Forum. I want to thank Jackie for inviting me to come. I did not want to come, not because I don't love y'all, because I love you, and I've been here before, talking about housing and the bonds and other things, but I don't do a very good job of talking about myself. I'm not really here for me. I'm here as a servant of God, but I'm going to talk about myself today, and I'm going to talk about some of the people in this room. I love Mr. Hall. You look so different. When you stood up and spoke, I was like, Lord, it's Mr. Hall. And I'll explain why I'm calling him Mr. Hall, even though I'm definitely older than Mr. Hall. I think my professional journey is intertwined with parenthood. Because I didn't come to my role right now without my children, without the role that my kids have played in my life. And so, as was mentioned, I'm executive director for the Greater Charlotte Apartment Association. But my professional journey began with my children, because I was in public accounting early on in my professional career. I worked for Arthur Andersen, if you all remember that great institution that was taken down by all the wrong things, the shredder of all things. So they're no more, but I was there, and I was there when my son went to elementary school. And when my son went to elementary school, my mother told me one important thing, and that was support the PTA. Parents who are involved in their children's lives support the PTA, so go to meetings and participate. And I remember it was October, my son's in kindergarten, and I went to the first parent meeting, and I moved around the room, and I talked with Miss Ivory in the back, who was the assistant principal at Statesboro Road Elementary at the time, the principal, Miss Turner, and then some of the other parents. And I explained to them that I worked at Arthur Andersen. And they said, oh, you're an accountant. And I said, well, I work in public accounting, sure. And I said, if I can do anything to help, you let me know. And I gave them my contact information. I honestly thought it was going to be money. And I was okay with that. I was like, I'll give some money and donate some supplies and support the teachers. And we went to spring break, or winter break. We went to winter break, and we came back, and my son had a note in his backpack. And I said, oh God, what did he do? He's just in kindergarten. And I opened up the note, and the note said, congratulations, you've been elected treasurer of the PTA. Oh, wow. And I was like, I did not raise my hand for treasurer of the PTA, but I did it, and I accepted that role. And from the treasurer, I went on to be president of the PTA at Statesboro Road Elementary. I went on to be secretary or treasurer of the Mecklenburg PTA Council, where I met the beautiful Blanche Penn in the back. Blanche was, I believe, the first person of color to lead the Mecklenburg PTA Council. Did I get that right, Blanche?
Yes.
Linda Butler. So Blanche was the second.
About 30.
It was so few back then. Everybody felt like the first. So few. And thank you, Blanche, for sewing into my life, because I was a very young mother participant in the PTA Council. Did not aspire to be president of that organization. Was okay being treasurer. We audited a lot of PTAs and helped PTAs to not be in the headlines and to not lose funding, because we knew it was important for parents and teachers to have confidence in those organizations. But I went on to be president of the Mecklenburg PTA Council, and I think that was a critical time for me professionally, because it was a juncture where I felt like public accounting was not really the best use of my time and my passions and interests. And the reason why I know that, and I'm going to take myself back to JCSU as a sophomore, the career center leader reached out to me and said, hey, we have someone who works for the city who needs a nanny. And I said, well, okay, I don't know that I know much about nannying, but okay, I'm happy to talk to that person. And it was the budget manager for the city at the time, and you all might know her as our mayor right now. Vilaus taught me how to drive a 6-shift Volvo up a very steep South Park home hill. I swear I almost ended up in the woods a couple of times. It was very scary times, but I was her children's nanny for several months, and I watched Vi, as a single parent at that time, working hard, taking care of her children. I watched her. I watched her when she didn't know I was watching her. I watched the moves that she made. I watched how she was passionate about the city and what she was doing. Had no aspirations, I think, of being the mayor. She was just a mom taking care of the things she was responsible for with the city of Charlotte and doing them with honor and excellence and decency. And we had conversations, as a 19-year-old, I'm talking to her and pulling things out of her. And I didn't realize that those things I was pulling out of her at that time would be things that would come back to me as a mom, as a professional, as someone who was trying to make a way in Charlotte. I didn't even know I was going to stay in Charlotte. I'm from Philadelphia. I thought, I'd go back home and do something. I honestly thought that I would go and be a college professor. But my son was born 2 months after I graduated from college, and so that derailed things. And if I say anything in this room today, because my career path has not been linear, right? I didn't go to college and then go to grad school and then go working and then go up the ladder. My son was born when I was 21. I graduated at the top of my class, but I had a child. I had to work. I got married. I did things that you do to make sure you make it. And I thought that being a parent at a young age would derail me. I thought, well, this discredits me completely. So I didn't realize how the PTA would be the thing that brought me back to professional work. And so I became the president of the Mecklenburg PTA Council, working with parents from schools all across Mecklenburg County. R.G. Kell, schools up in Huntersville, and Davidson, folks, very diverse backgrounds. And I was young. I was so young. And I had imposter syndrome in that role as a very young person. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And I ran that, if I could say it, I ran that parent organization like a corporation, if you will. It was very weird. We had an office in CMS's old building. Actually, our office was next door to the Office for Communications. And so Ernest Winston, our former superintendent at the time, worked in communications for CMS. And so we were friends. We would chit-chat about CMS issues. So it was nice to get to know Ernest in that role and to see him become superintendent. It was just amazing. It was full circle for me. But we ran that organization like it was a business. And I think I got emails. I get emails from people asking if we had any jobs available at the Mecklenburg PTA Council. And I had to tell people, you do know this is a volunteer gig. It's not a paid job. And maybe I should have taken that as a compliment, right? That we were working it in such a way, to such a level of professionalism, and what we brought to it, that someone wanted to work there. And I even say today to people, if you could get volunteers to show up in their roles as if they're getting paid for it, well, you really accomplished something, because most of the time we all show up for a paycheck, right? We're showing up for our pay. Volunteers show up for other reasons, right? They want something, motivation, whatever it is, they show up for other reasons. And so I did that for 3 years, and I did that at the end of Dr. Pewsley's time with CMS. So I had the pleasure of sitting on the committee that selected Dr. Gorman to be our superintendent. And when he came in, he wanted to do an initiative, a television show, to bring more parents into the school. He said, we need more parents into the school, our underperforming schools, we need parents to show up. And I said, okay, I'm happy to help you with that concept. And he said, well, that's nice, but we need a host for this television show. And I said, and I'm happy to help you find someone to host it as well. And he said, well, we were thinking about you. And I said, that is not what I do. I am not a TV host, just no. And the station manager, Russ Gill at the time, he said, well, can we just do one show with you? Just one show and let us see what people think. And naively, so young back then, I said, sure, I'll do one show. We do the show, it comes back with the feedback. He said, people love you, and we really need you to do this. And I said, I will do one more show, and we're gonna find somebody to be a host, because this is just not what I do. I have a job, and I have children, and I'm married. I have a husband, and we had a business at the time. Well, y'all already know how that ends, right? I got roped into doing it for 4.5 years. 4.5 years of a television show for CMS. Again, imposter syndrome. I was not Erica Bryant, Sonia Kent. That was not what I went to school for. But I'm a curious mind. And I had to interview people. And I just soaked all that in. All the people I got to talk to, all the things that they shared. I soaked that in. And at the same time, while I was doing that, the North Carolina Parent Teachers Association had gotten funding from Governor Bev Perdue for a program called the Parent Involvement Initiative. And the premise of that initiative was that if parents were more actively involved in schools, their children would do better. And I was all for that. I was like, well, that just makes sense. 1 and 1, 2. That makes perfect sense. But what it meant was that I had to travel to Anson County and Cabarrus County, and I had to work with low performing schools and superintendent there. And the superintendent in Anson County was particularly interesting. He was from Connecticut, and he was former military. And when I finally sat down and met with him, he said to me, I heard you've been trying to meet with me. And I said, well, yes, I have. I said, here's the premise of the program, and we'd like to roll this out in some of your schools. And we'll provide funding, and we'll do all the things with parents. And he looked me square in my face, and he said, you know, I have thoughts about you, and the word begins with a C, and it ends with a T. And I just was like, what? And I just, it took everything in me. I just had to pray for a few seconds, and I was like, God, help me, please. Did this man just say this to me, to my face? And I said, I'm very sorry that you feel that way. I said, we would still like to really help your students if you would be willing to have us help your students. And I said, can I meet with you again? And I left that meeting, and I went in my car, and I cried. I cried. I won't actually say what the word was. It was 4 letters, begins with a C, ends with a T. And I knew what he was saying. And I didn't know that I was deserving of that. I don't know what I had done to make him feel that way. But I think I knew what I was going to get into in Anson County with what was going on. And I found some good preachers in Anson County, some good Baptist preachers in Anson County. And I petitioned them for help. And one of them was willing to help. He had been in Anson County all his life. And he said, I'm going to help you. And he went directly to the schools, to the principals, and the principals decided that they were going to get on board. That superintendent and I never interacted with each other again, thankfully. And that was heartbreaking. That was heartbreaking for me, and I just thought, God, really? I know you called me to this, but this is not, no. But in the time that I was in Anson County, I met a young mother with 4 children, and that preacher asked me if I would work with her specifically. She had been prostituting, and she was using drugs, and her children were young, and they needed her. And she didn't have her high school diploma, and so I went to her. I'd take groceries to her. I'd watch children, I'd do all the things, and finally I said, hey, if we provide you an opportunity to get your GED, if I come here and take you to GED classes, will you try to get your GED? And she did. I took her Tuesdays and Thursdays to GED class, and she got her GED. And she went on to cosmetology school and got a job doing nails and doing hair. And those children were well taken care of. And it was at that point where I saw that housing instability, because they were living in a shack, and it was cold in there and the kerosene ran out often. Housing and students, like those two are fundamentally connected. Outcomes in school and housing stability are fundamentally connected. And I said, I can't do public accounting anymore. Like, I need to be doing this work. I need to do community development. I need to be connecting with people and communities and help people find the housing that they need and opportunities and jobs. And I'll never forget, I was fresh out of my MPA program, and David Howard and I knew each other loosely, but not closely. But I knew James Mitchell very well. And James called me one day. He said, David and CMHP need someone to work in community engagement. And I said, okay, yeah, I'm all for it. And he said, well, let me let you talk to David. He said, you need to talk to him and find out how much it pays. And I was like, I really don't care how much it pays. I want to do it. And David called me and we talked. And David said, well, you're overqualified for this. And I said, it's really not about that. And I don't care how much it pays. I want to do it. And I think I interviewed. I don't really know that I interviewed. I probably didn't interview, but David hired me. And so I went to work under David. And that was such a blessing. Because I got to meet Winston. I got to work with folks in community. So Druid Hills community and the Statesville Avenue corridor, Lockwood, Double Oaks, Genesis Park, Park at Oak Lawn. I got to work in those communities, and they became my family. We would have 4th of July parties at my house. So, I'm working at CMHP. I definitely crossed the line in the relationshiping that I created with the neighbors over in those communities. But for me, in order to build trust, I had to do that. I couldn't just be, at my 9 to 5 and think that I was going to build trust in communities that we were, quote, helping if I didn't go the extra mile. And so the late Daryl Gaston, Daryl would host Memorial Day at his place or Thanksgiving. I would host the 4th of July. Jatanya Adams would host something like, we just hosted at different people's things. And then annually, I would take like a group of neighborhood folks on a trip for a week. I don't know, did we go to LA? I can't remember where we went to LA. Houston?
You took my niece, you didn't take me.
You never went? I owe you. We would take neighborhood leaders, a group of neighborhood leaders on trips to visit communities that were doing great things in neighborhoods. Sorry, I'm thinking about Daryl, because I miss Daryl. I miss Daryl. I miss Daryl. Daryl, I will say this, and I will say this on here because Melissa will never actually admit it, but Melissa and Daryl met because of the community engagement work that we were doing. I took them on a trip somewhere, and I was like, they're walking around together a lot, and then 2 years later they were married. So I was like, I knew something was going on here. I love the community leaders that I got to work with. They're still friends to this day. They are family. I don't know how you do community engagement work and don't build family connections, and so I did that. And then in 2017, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I don't really talk about my health stuff too much, but I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And so I have pain. Today is a good day because it's sunny outside, so I'm not in pain, which is great. And I was depressed. 2017, getting that diagnosis, I was very depressed. And one day I was in my office and I heard a still small voice say to me, everything I do with you from this point forward is to prepare you for your next assignment. And I said, well, I don't know what that is, God. I just promoted like 2 weeks ago. So, but I just took it and I parked it. Later on that year, I was at an event with UNCC and I had introduced Pam Whiteman, our former housing director. And Kurt Walton, our former city manager, walked up to me and Kurt said, how are you, Kim? And I said, I'm fine. And Kurt and I don't know each other particularly well. And so it was a little odd that he was approaching me. And he said, have you thought about your next assignment? And I was like, well, that's odd phraseology, but okay. I said, do you mean job? He said, yes. I said, well, no, I hadn't. But the word assignment stuck out to me because I was like, okay, God, is something going on here? What's going on? And he said, you know, the Greater Charlotte Apartment Association is looking for a replacement for Ken Zemansky. He's retiring. And I said, I'm gonna stop you right there, respectfully. I said, I'm not gonna be out in these streets looking for a job. My boss and I get along very well, we are friends, and that is just not what's gonna happen here. And he said, well, can I at least have the search firm call you? And I said, I don't know about that. And he said, well, just let them call you. And I said, okay, that's fine. I said, but please tell them it needs to be very confidential because I just don't want my boss, who I consider a friend, to hear that I'm looking for a job through the grapevine. And the search firm called me 2 days later. And the woman, Susie Jernigan, said, hey, Kim, how are you? And I just blanched and stopped cold. And I was like, oh my God. That search firm had hired my boss. And so I said, well, it's good to talk with you. I said, I didn't know you all were the search firm. I said, can we please keep this confidential? I don't want Julie finding out about this. And by the way, had you thought about, and I started listing like 4 or 5 other people. I was like, had you thought about these other people? And she said, yeah, we thought about them, but we'd really like to talk with you. And I talked with them for 2 hours the next day. And then they referred me on to the search committee. And I just said, God, I'm good over here at CMHP doing what I'm doing. I love what I do and I love who I get to do it with, and I'm good. I had 3 more interviews. And if I'm honest, in this room, I said, CMHP, Greater Charlotte Apartment Association, is a very non-minority organization. Multifamily, in general, is very white, very male, and very old. And I'm very much the opposite of that. And I just said, there's no way, God, that this is what you're trying to do at all. So, whatever. And then I got the call. I got the call that they wanted to make me an offer. And I was really conflicted about that. But I said, God, if this is what you want me to do, then I will do it. And so I took the role in December of 2018. In the 6 years since then, I started a program there called the Access Program, Apartment Career Credentials, Empowering Student Success, in partnership with Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. That program is providing training, free training for high school students to learn the trade of our industry. Because what most people don't know is the folks who work on site, many of them don't have college degrees. Most of those are by choice, not because they couldn't go to school. They just don't want to go to school for any particular reason. Lots of people in our industry, upward mobile, live on sites, rent discounts, lots of 6-figure incomes. One of our graduates from the program is Neely Felice. Felice means happy, y'all, right? She's happy twice in her last name. African-American young lady from Garinger High School. She graduated our program in 2022. She is an assistant community manager at a property in South Park. She makes really, really good money as a 20-year-old. She lives on property. She can take her certification anywhere in the country and work. I am so proud of her. The program is solving for jobs, but is also solving for housing. Because her family lived, off of the plaza. They were paying 60% of their income monthly for rent. Her family moved with her into the property. We should be doing that for every young person that we can find, but in particular for young people of color who often don't have access to multifamily jobs and often are not going to live in your Uptown 550s and your View and your Dwell at Carmel. That I'm committed to. That is the thing that if I go down for nothing in my career, I want to go down for that. And I'm very committed to that. And we're the only association that's doing it. And I know that God didn't just give me this job for nothing, right? He gave me the job and he gave me the program. I didn't dream up the program and I didn't seek out the job, but while I'm in the role, I'm going to provide access and opportunity. Some of the other things that have happened since I've been there, we had our very first African-American board president in 47 years. Our very first African-American Suppliers Council president. Our very first Education Foundation African-American chair. We've had the most diverse leadership Lyceum program class that we've ever had. But I will say this, that when I get asked to be featured on a social media site or something like that for Black History Month and that sort of thing, I find that I have a trauma response. And I say no. And I'll tell you why I say no as I close out. For those of you who were here when Gloria Pace King went through what she went through at United Way, I was working at United Way at the time. And when I went to work at United Way, one of the partners at the firm I was at the accounting firm I was at, took me to meet with Gloria and said, hey, this is Kim, and she's doing great things for us. She wants to make a switch. Do you all have a role here for her? And Gloria was like, I don't even know you, but I'm going to trust Mike, and we're going to find a role for you here. And she made me public policy manager. And I watched Gloria and how she moved at United Way. And there are going to be lots of critics, right? There will be people who will criticize how she did what she did. But our United Way made a lot of money back then, $44 million if I recall correctly in 2008. And I watched how what happened to her unfolded. And I thought she was great. I thought she was great and a great leader as a Black woman. But I think what happened to her informed how I show up sometimes as a Black woman leading an organization that doesn't look like me. And I think sometimes I don't want to remind people that they hired someone who looks like me, even though I definitely looked like me when they hired me. But I think I have a trauma response sometimes that might not ever go away. Very transparent about that. I don't think I've ever acknowledged that, but I'm acknowledging it today. And I'm grateful. And I know that I'm in this role, but for God, when God is ready to send me on to something else, God will do that. He brought me to this assignment. He can cancel my assignment. And I'm okay with that. And I thank you all so much.
Wasn't that powerful? Wow. Okay, thank you so much. Ken and then Gary. Jackie.
Awesome, so proud of you. With technology now having evolved as it has, and your particular story and your knowledge and wealth of stuff and experiences, you ever considered your own podcast?
So first of all, one of the other things that we did over the last 6 years was we created a podcast at the GCAA called Morning Perks. And I show up on that podcast from time to time. I hadn't, again, because, as I said, I don't dream up this stuff, right? So, God hadn't said, Kim, a podcast to my glory, right? Ken says that God told him to tell me that a podcast is in my future.
He did pray this morning.
He did, and he prayed awesomely. So if God says that there's a podcast in my future at some point, then I'm in the business of listening to God when he tells me to do things.
Okay, Gary. And then Jackie.
Powerful story. One of the things I was hoping you were going to touch on, with you being from Philadelphia, of all the places in the world, what brought you to Charlotte and Johnson C. Smith?
Excellent question. And Harold, you might know who brought me to Johnson C. Smith in Charlotte. So I was all set to go to the University of Delaware for civil engineering. My uncle is a civil engineer with the Army Corps of Engineers. He's retired. And he was the first person to go to college in my family. I was the second person to go to college in my family. And I was the first female in my family to graduate from college. But I was filling out my college applications one day, and my sister was dating a guy who had graduated from JCSU. And he was in Philadelphia for medical school, Herman Gore. And Herman's a Kappa from JCSU. And he said, well, where are you going to college? And I said, well, I'm going to the University of Delaware. I got a scholarship. And he said, well, what about an HBCU? And I said, what college is that? And he said, a historically black college or university. And I said, I don't even know what that is. And he said, well, I went to JCSU. And he started talking to me about JCSU and about black. He gave me a whole education. I mean, he was at our house much longer than he ever was supposed to be that night. And he got me an application for JCSU. And that was back when we mailed things in. There was no email, right? We mailed things in. I think I hand wrote my essay. And I remember I was laying on the floor in our little house, and I was listening to Phoebe and CeCe Winans' Bridge Over Troubled Water. And I was writing out my college essay. And I sent it in to JCSU, my application, and a week later, I got an acceptance letter with a really sweet note at the bottom from the director of admissions. And anyone who knows me, I'm a sucker for a personal note. Like, I got stacks of thank you cards in my office. I write personal notes all the time, I got stamps. And that wasn't, I didn't get that from the University of Delaware. I didn't get that from Gettysburg University. I didn't get that from Drexel. I got that from JCSU. And I was like, this feels very personal. This is very compelling for me. And then I did some research. So I found out that the president at the time was from Philadelphia, Dr. Albright. And I just felt like it was a sign. I felt like God was speaking to me. And so I came down, and I didn't even do a visit. Let me just tell y'all right now. We came here sight unseen. We packed up the station wagon, and my mother and my stepfather drove me down on Friday, and they left to go back home to Philadelphia on Sunday, and my mother said, don't get into trouble. That's what she told me before she left, don't get into trouble. And I said, I won't get into trouble. And that following Sunday, when we had the first service with the president, after we're done listening to Dr. Jones speak to us, Dr. Clifford Jones speak to us, I walked up front to the president of the university, and I shook his hand, and I said, Dr. Albright, I'm Kim Garvin, that was my last name, my maiden name. I'm from Philadelphia, and I'm gonna make you proud. And he just kind of looked out for me after that. He was like, I gotta look out for this girl from Philadelphia. And he just made sure I was everywhere I needed to be, and I was a nerd and still am a nerd. And I was like, I'm gonna kill these books so that he can do what he needs to do for me. But I'm here because of God. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Jackie and then Blanche.
Gary asked my question.
Oh, okay, Blanche.
Good morning.
Jazz.
Good morning, Dr. Blanche Penn here. Kim, it's almost like you've been around the world, and oh my God. So you've done a lot of things, so it's wonderful. Back in our day, we did the PTA So tell me how you have reached out to, or have you reached out to more young people to kind of walk in the steps that you're walking in?
Thank you for that. So I'll take it back to my time at CMHP, and as Winston mentioned, his niece went with us on a trip. While I was at CMHP, God put it on my heart for us to connect with the schools that were in Druid Hills. And so we grabbed some, I believe, third graders. I think they were third grade at the time, third or fourth grade. They were young. They were probably 8 or 9 at the time. And we created a program for them to come in and hear from the community leaders, right? The community leaders always were saying, the young people don't have anything to do. They're just being mischievous. We need something for the young people to do. And so we created just a development program for them, a leadership development program. And we brought them over to one of the properties in Druid Hills on Saturday mornings. And we fed them and introduced them to professors from JCSU, Daryl, other community leaders, some of the elders, so that they could hear from them, develop a respect and a connection with the community. They did volunteer service in their own community. And then at the end of it, our beloved President Obama, I hope there are no Obama detractors in the room, because I love President Obama. The kids got the Presidential Volunteer Service Award, and they got a medal and a letter from President Obama. And I don't ever have the benefit of knowing just how things like that touch students. I think about the students, I'm like, how did this change their lives? I believe that Shakira was probably on the path to being great anyways. But she's graduated from college now. What is my baby doing?
Whatever she wants. But now she works at Rack Room Corporate as an assistant buyer.
Like, just that, it gives me chills, right? That just gives me chills. Shakira was going to do great things. She's going to be changing other children's lives, right? That seed that was planted in her, she's going to reach back and pull some other kids along. The access program that we have at GCAA, just the high school students that we get to touch and introduce to the industry. And, I get to stand up and vouch for them, right? Our members who own properties and develop properties, they can't say no to me. I come in and I stamp those young people with approval, and they can't say no. They could want to say no, they can't say no. I could employ them at where we work and be okay with it. And I'll thank my mom if she's listening, because when I took the role, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome. Again, I will say that because my industry that I work in is very not looking like me. And my mother said to me, just look yourself in the mirror every day and smile and tell yourself you're the boss.
Right.
And that gave me the feeling that I could do that for young people, whether they look like my industry or not, and I will stand on that 100% of the time. Thank you for that question.
Good morning, my fellow Smithite. So I'm a community organizer. My biggest thing is people don't realize that community organizing is literally like a part of their everyday lives. And Dr. Blanche kind of just asked my question around the youth, but instead of the youth, and one of the things that you mentioned was building relationships. How did you engage with the parents of those youth, and did you make any leaders out of them?
Ooh, that's an excellent and multifaceted question. We couldn't connect with the young people without connecting with their parents. Like, one, that's probably just wholly unethical to engage with a young person and not talk to their parents. We tend to have a lot of parent meetings, right? Oftentimes, I will cross the line. I don't have real good boundaries. And so I'm looking at parents and families and trying to figure out what I need to do potentially in their homes and in their households to help strengthen their households so that their young people can show up in the way that they need to show up. And so, as I mentioned, the Parent Involvement Initiative that I was involved in back in 2009, that parent wasn't my client. Her daughter, her 9-year-old daughter, Moesha, was my client, actually. Oisha was in the classroom that I had adopted. But Oisha was missing class and she was depressed in school. And I said, something's going on at home. And so I went a little bit further and went to that house to try and find out what was going on at home. I didn't realize what I was going to be met with, which was, 3 other children and mom with addiction issues and mom not making money. And so she's having to do the things that she needed to do to make ends meet. And I ended up adopting that whole family because I was trying to do something good for Moesha and for her classroom. You can't do children's work, you can't do youth work without engaging their parents. There's just no way to do that. You can't really do youth work without trying to stabilize a household. And when people try to do it that way, it normally doesn't end well. It really can't be successful without that.
Okay, we have Winston and then Charlene. Winston, Charlene.
All right, so I'm gonna take a facilitator's point of privilege and tell a little story of context before I ask my question of how Kim and I have grown to know each other and how influential she was for me to be in this space, as we are a little over a month away from the Great West Side Fish Fry last year, an event that had between 5,000 and 7,000 people. Kim came to our Lockwood neighborhood meeting with, okay, I thought you was holding it up. This is important. Kim came to our neighborhood meeting in Lockwood because CMHP had a program called House Charlotte. And House Charlotte at the time would, if you go through the class and if you were a qualifying person, you could receive up to $25,000 at the time. Now I think it's like up to $35,000. $25,000 of grant-funded down payment assistance. And that's everything when you're buying a home. That's a significant portion. And the programs are stackable. And Kim came with this elaborate presentation. You can see she's just such a charismatic person, great speaker. And I don't know how well everybody knows the work of community and neighborhood associations, but she had this elaborate presentation. It was like 8 of us in an old small black church. And at the end of that presentation, I'm walking up to Kim with my head, down. I'm about to apologize for the low engagement. And before I could open my mouth, Kim was like, oh man, y'all had 8 people. And three of them had questions. That's incredible. So that's when I realized, when a light bulb went off for me. Wait, people, I can get people, that's easy. That's the easy part. That's my, it's been a large part of my life for a long time. So I realized resources that are essential to people in Black communities, and they're already out here and available, just going underutilized. So I thought let me get the old gang back together, and we're gonna crank up this cookout that we started a year after undergrad and gather people here so they can know about programs like House Charlotte from CMHP. That was the center focus. And we had panel discussions over trap music beats, and it was just ridiculous. But from that initial cookout and those resources, I took an informal tally from October to February, and I counted 47 people that began their journey towards first-time home ownership just from attending. Whether it was connections they made with Melissa, she's a real estate, or join a program or whatever. So largely Kim and her, again, just the way she approached her work was very inspirational and planted that seed in me to just kind of carry it forward. So I thank you for that. Now my question is, in this world of, as I hear your story, in this world that would encourage you to have a strategic plan and, kind of forecast your future, all of these steps to make sure you're in control. When I hear your story, it's just like I go where God takes me. What do you say to those people, those young people who are in the midst of their young careers looking for an approach to kind of guide it all and look for their success?
First of all, thank you for acknowledging I was just doing my job on, a Tuesday or something. Thank you, because you've responded to what you felt inside, and you've blossomed into some beautiful thing. And thank you for reminding me where the fish fry is, because I missed it last year, and I want some fried fish. So I'll say that. I would tell them what I'm going to tell my goddaughter when I talked to her on Friday. She was rejected. I won't say rejected, but she wasn't accepted into 2 colleges that she applied for. And my cousin, who's her mother, believes it's about her essay, that the essay needs to be better. And I'm going to tell her, and my cousin's probably really mad at me, I'm going to tell her college is not for everybody. I know that you hear that college is for everybody. College is not for everybody. You do not need to do it right out of high school. If you want to, move down here and I'll connect you with gainful employment and a career path. And then if you want to go back to college and get a degree at another time, you can do that. It's not for everybody. I have 2 children that don't have college degrees. My daughter's an RN. My son is an electrician. I will tell them, connect with people in your circle. Don't let the world tell you that you must have a particular pedigree, because you don't have to have a particular pedigree. You don't have to be vertical. You can be zigzag and spaghetti if you want to be. That you will get where you are supposed to be going. If anyone heard my story, they would think, I think people hear my story. Folks assume you're CEO of this organization. Surely you did all these things, right? No, I did not. I did not. And I need to tell my story so that people understand that there is 0 reason for me to be in this role, but that this is my purpose. This is my purpose and my destiny, and it is God's ordained plan for my life. And whatever people's gods are, right? Whatever higher power you serve, whether it's internal or external, tap into that thing, and find people who will support you in that thing, because there are people out here who will support young people in anything that they want to do. But we got to put our phones down. Nothing against TikTok. I'm sure TikTok is great. But I read a lot. I listen to that small, still voice in my mind, and I connect with people who want to do things. Like you, right? People in this room who want to do things. That'll take them far.
Also bring baby girl on down here. We get into Winston-Salem State University. Make sure she has the greatest future ever.
Now you're pushing it. Charlene.
Good morning. I just had a cup of coffee, so my nerves is kind of like all over the place. I sit and listen intently, and the one thing that I really want to express this morning is your spirit. And for me, I look for the word right and wrong. Where would your heart lead you when you're doing things for the community? Our organizations that we're participating in help to make children job ready instead of jail ready. So those children that we see out on the streets, we go and take them and bring them to us and surround them with who we are at that moment and see what their skill levels are. And then we give them jobs. So I say that to say, in your faith, y'all, that word God, y'all don't understand. I try to keep myself poised, but that word God and your spirit, you have to allow God to use you and lead you. So I love that about you. And I want everybody to try and connect with the God that you know, because it's going to lead you to do the right thing versus the wrong thing. The world can eat you up, but if you stay focused and stay on that path, you're going to do great things. So I say that to say, how does it affect your daily life when you come across people? From your spiritual standpoint, how does that affect people? And does it allow you to minister to them as you do what you do? Because a lot of people, they try to say separate church and state, and I get it. But does that allow you to help minister to those people while you're doing the great work that you do in this community?
Thank you for that question. God, my God, he's preparing all the places he's taken me, right? And so 6 years ago, I came into an office, I inherited a staff that wasn't like me. I was the first person of color to work there and the first person of color to lead that organization. And I said, God, I need some help. I need some support. And the first person I hired was someone who worked for me at CMHP, a woman of faith, a woman who I go to church with. She didn't even live here. She lived somewhere else. And I just said, God, you're making her available to us for a reason. And she was hired. I hired her. She didn't even do an interview. I just told my board of directors, I said, I'm hiring her. I need her. We need her. And I'm hiring her. And I was just like, I don't even know if that was right, but God, I heard you. The second person I hired, Rocky's not here. Rocky recommended him to us. We needed a director of finance. And I had never met him before, but something about his spirit in that interview, I was like, yeah, something's right about his spirit. So much so that I asked him, he tells people all the time, we were in the interview and Kim said to me, he used to work for Stoney Sellers, for those of you who know Stoney. I said to him, if Stoney offers you more money, are you going to stay with Stoney if I offer you this job? And I know that was probably not even right with employment law. But he said, well, no, I mean, if I accept, I'll accept. I'm a man of integrity. And he's been with me. Those two are my day ones. They've been with me forever. They're both people of color. And I was like, I need some folks that look like me in this office. I need to feel fortified. I did not know, but I learned later that he is a minister at his church. Michelle Mans, who I've known for a long time, this person of faith, her husband was just installed as a pastor in a town in North Carolina. And so we anointed our office. We do pray in our office. That first year, one of my staff members lost a brother to drug addiction. We stood in my office and held hands and prayed. And I just said to them, like, hey guys, if this doesn't work for you, I do apologize, but I feel like we need to pray for you right now. And that's just what I lead with. And I'm not trying to hit anybody over the head with it, but I'm not going to deny the God that brought me to that place. I'm not going to do that. And I'm certainly not going to do it to stay there, because as I always tell myself, God brought me to this assignment. And when I'm done with this assignment, he will send me to my next assignment.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, we have a few more questions and we're getting close to our time. I would like to ask, if you have a question, please stick to 30 seconds. And if you could answer within 2 minutes, that would be great. Al.
So, Kim, I've known you all this time. I did not know this journey and this story. So thank you for sharing that. Really, really thank you. We're living in a time right now where people are feeling very emboldened to say stuff, and that's not the word I want to use. Tell me about what kept you from going really, really south when that individual said the C word, right? So, again, we're living in a time, and I guess this is advice from me and others, where folks just want to say stuff to you, they want to do stuff right now that's not godlike. And I hadn't always been saved, so I need advice sometimes. Because I will go south. I grew up on the west side. Okay, 30 seconds. I'm sorry. What is your advice to us and others about how we approach, how we maintain during this time when people are getting a little bit twisted?
Excellent question. And what I will say is this, that all along my 6 years journey, I've had moments of people saying things. I've had micro and macro aggressions, because whether I realize my skin color or whatever, my gender, other people do. They approach me and they see that and they discount me in all sorts of ways. And so One, I take, if someone says something to me that I just think that was crazy, I take a few beats. I just take a few mental beats. And sometimes I say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Sometimes I say, bless. Sometimes I just walk away. Sometimes I ignore. I've ignored a lot because I have to continue to remind myself, and God is right there in my mind saying, whatever you think you're going to say is wholly counterproductive to what I'm trying to do with you here.
Okay.
That's what stops me.
Carol.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, turn on, slide to the,
Little green light.
Right. I know, we all thought that, didn't we?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I wanted to get a little bit about the apartment association and exactly what the purpose of what it does.
Thank you for that question. Just, I'm going to boil it down to 2 minutes. So we provide all the certifications for anyone who works on site in apartment communities, in the leasing offices, on the grounds, maintenance. Also people who work in headquarters, so folks who manage portfolios of apartments and rental homes. We legislate and advocate for the industry. So advocating for housing choice voucher reform so that more rental housing providers will accept housing choice vouchers and people won't lose them and they'll expire and not find housing. And then we provide networking opportunities so that the suppliers to the industry, anywhere from lights and flooring and paint and furniture and all of that stuff, can connect with the developers, the designers, the architects, the third-party management companies. And then we do nice things like, create programs that have never been created before where young people of color can get a job in an industry that otherwise they would not be able to get a job in because it's really about who you know. And if you don't know somebody who's working in that industry who looks like you, you're not going to get a job. So we provide access and opportunities. And then the last thing, from time to time, we do special things with money we may have left over. And when Hurricane Helene hit Asheville, we stood up a $250,000 fund for rental assistance. And we're really trying to get that fund used, which is why I'm talking about it. So people who live in that Asheville region or nearby who are displaced from their housing, they can access up to $3,000 in rental assistance if they move to another property, whether it's here in Mecklenburg County or in Asheville or Buncombe County or some other county. I can certainly tell you more about it because I feel like there's a question that's under your question that I want to lift out of your question.
You answered the question, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Kim, I'm glad God called you to Statesville Road when he did, because you certainly helped to elevate our school by being parent PTA, and your children were nothing but a blessing. My question to you, you mentioned about building relationships. You mentioned Daryl Gaston, who we work with at Statesville Road in the tutorial program that they had in their church, which was most beneficial to our students. Building relationships, going above and beyond to the point of just, having times with those parents. You extended yourself, parent-student relationships. What is the accountability that the criteria you set for those parents and students to make sure that they adhere to and achieve their goals according to your expectation?
That's an excellent question, and I will say that it's the expectation and accountability metrics are rooted in kind of a fundamental thing, which is just show up, right? Show up. For parents, make sure your child is actually at school on time. Make sure they get good sleep at night. We know that that's not always possible. We know that children don't always eat at home. A lot of times their meals are coming from school. But when we had parent-teacher meetings, when we have events, anything that we do, parents, please show up. It was our job to eliminate the barriers for parents showing up, because so many parents, especially parents who are not affluent, have barriers, whether it's their work responsibilities and they don't have 9 to 5s, right? They could be working third shift jobs and sleeping during the day. They might not be up to take a child to school or get them to the bus stop on time. Just any number of things. But for the Parent Involvement Initiative, and just for me as a parent, showing up tells your child so much. Just being there is a sense of pride for children. It lets teachers know that they can't treat a child any old way. Not that, I'm not saying the teachers do, but sometimes they do. And so just being there, showing up, listening to your child, and partnering properly with the school to make sure that positive outcomes happen. Great question.
Okay, wait just a minute. We have this young man that's standing up right now. He's going to have a question. Then we have 2 more questions. If you look at the time, it's 1:45. So we need you to be 30 seconds. Please try to stay 2 minutes or less. Then we have Jackie and Ken, and then we have announcements.
I'll do the best I can. Good morning, I'm Robert Collins. Kim, I want to say, what I would like to say to you is, thank you for being obedient. I heard you say something and it really grabbed a hold of my spirit, and I wanted to just release this into you. You spoke about the trauma, and I think that's something that we all go through that we don't speak about. But in my spirit, I heard today that the trauma you said that's been holding you back is going to be released because you spoke of it today. And so don't be weary or have fear, because God's going to still use you a lot more than you've already been used. The other thing is, you were speaking about the young lady that you now helped, and she's now making good money, and she's have her family move in. Do you have any programs that allows the youth to reach out to other youth to find out about that program?
First of all, thank you. Thank you for affirming me. I appreciate that very much. I think that's version 2.0 of the Access program, right? I think that's the 40 students that have graduated from our program thus far and done the different things that they've done in multifamily. Them reaching back, they're still young. We're trying to help them to grow into their mentor roles, into their adulting. But I think maybe you just sowed a seed for version 2.0 of the Access program. So I'll come back and let you all know how that, reaching back, right? How that turns out. So thank you for that.
Okay, Jackie and then Ken.
Again, thank you so much for coming, Kim. There are a lot of young men and women who are out here who are working every day in jobs or companies that are being boycotted. They are looking for other things to do. I heard you work with CMS. These folk are generally 18 to 24, 25, 30. Is that part of your 2.0?
No, that's actually part of 1.0 right now. So we just started a partnership, a new pilot, if you will, with the city of Charlotte. Genesis is the Mayor's Youth Employment Program, but we're going to morph that into something that works. And so I believe the age group will be probably 18 or 17 to 24, something like that, along with our Access program. And so that will be finalized, I think, after this fiscal year ends. So we'll begin kind of trying to roll it out after August. The other thing is we have members like Entryway, who's a member of our association. They work with young people up to adults and placing them in jobs and training them, and then they get to work in maintenance jobs and leasing jobs in our industry. So we work with Gracemar. Gracemar is a member of ours. They're doing job training. Urban League, while not a member, is a partner of ours. Housing Collaborative is a member of ours. So I think we're trying to just saturate the market with opportunities for young people and youngish people to come and work in multifamily. We have more jobs than we have people to fill them.
With that training?
Yes.
Kim, my daughter spent 9 years in Philadelphia, but she's back now as the head of the school at Trinity. My question is in regards to alumni associations. New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. historically were the premier alumni dances that everybody went to every year. And there are some people back there in Philadelphia now who are Smith alumni, Wayne and Cheryl Mallory and many others. Are you active or in any way connected with your hometown alumni association? I know we got you here.
I'm not. And so if this is your way of recruiting me, even though I'm here in Charlotte, to support our hometown alumni association, I will do that, Ken. I will do that. Talk about being put on the spot.
Okay, Kim, I'd like to ask the question about the Sarah Stevenson apartment. How is that faring? And just share a little light with this audience about the apartments being named after Sarah Stevenson.
So yes, the apartment community that's at the corner of LaSalle and Statesville Avenue was named after Mrs. Stevenson. And we had a glorious grand opening with Congresswoman Adams and just a full tent of people. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. Representative Spud. It's thriving. I mean, let me just say this, it is probably the biggest apartment community that CMHP has. And it has its moments of challenge, but it is thriving. It will always be 100% occupied, and it will always honor its namesake. And here's the great thing too, I feel like that building was the anchor for the Michael Jordan health facility that's down the road from it. The dirt that's right next to it will be something else. I hope it'll be a grocery store, but probably not. But hopefully it'll be something that's an amenity and a service to that corridor. Dream Key is going to make sure that property continues to thrive and continues to represent its namesake very well. Thank you for that.
Let's give Ms. Graham a we brought in wonderful women who are doing great things, and we really know that you are doing great and are going to do even greater things. Next month we'll have U.S. Congresswoman next Tuesday.
Next month.
Oh, did I say next month?
Yes.
Oh, I'm rushing it. Okay. Next Tuesday we will have U.S. Congresswoman Alma Adams. Please come. She's got a great update. I don't know if any of you were at her town hall, but it was packed. I mean, there were no seats. It was just that many people because people are concerned. So she brought some there. But we're going to have announcements, and I'm going to open up the announcements. On this week, I'm looking at, let me see the date on here. This week, there's going to be a state about air, water, and soil. And it's going to be, it's a forum, and it's going to be on March the 13th, which is Thursday, from 6 to 8. And none other than our own Nancy Carter, former council lady, I think there she is. She's going to be one of the panelists. I really encourage you, all of us, to attend because we take for granted our air that we breathe. We take for granted our water and our soil. And all of these three things are very, very political. So I think that it's great to go and hear what they're going to say about it. And she may say something else about it.
What is it? March 22nd, the BCIC Black College Invitational Championship Basketball Tournament that's coming. They're actually doing a yard fest at Bojangles Auditorium or Bojangles Arena on that day, 8 to 12. They have a promotional code for business owners that want to set up as vendors to cut the price by 50%. So it's a great opportunity if it's something you're interested in to advertise your business, generate more revenue, and just get the word out about your company or what it may be or your service that you provide. This would be a great opportunity to get out there in front of the masses to do so. It's March 22nd, once again. I'll send a link to Steve to put it on the site.
very much. This Friday, as I spoke earlier, that we try to make sure that young girls are job ready instead of jail ready. This Friday, we will be having a girls' night in from the ages of 13 all the way up to 65. And what we're going to be doing is having a women and youth empowerment entrepreneur night. And we're going to be wearing muumuus for those who are old school, who y'all know y'all grandma used to have them house dresses on. So we're going to have muumuus, and the young girls are going to be wearing their PJs. So it's a fun night. We're going to learn line dancing, of course, and we're going to have young entrepreneurs who have created businesses for themselves, and they will be there that night as well to actually show what a business looks like from a young perspective. So this is this Friday at 7 p.m. And that's March the 14th. And I don't have my glasses on, but it will be held at the MAA Optimus Park, which is uptown, 525 21st Street, Charlotte, 28208. I do have a QR code, and the registration is $10. Now, if you guys want to not come, that's fine, but if you would like to, I guess, sponsor a young girl or an adult, it doesn't matter. It's $10. Funds do go back to the organization, as well as those children who are learning how to be entrepreneurs themselves. So I do have a QR code this Friday, 7 o'clock. We love everyone to attend, no matter what, because if the young people see the older people supporting them, then it helps them, become even better. So that's this Friday, 7 o'clock uptown, and it's called Girls Night In. Well, thank you. See that? I ain't got, oh God, do it, come on. Oh. And y'all know where my heart is, so this is not going in my pocket at all, period.
Well, I prayed for some of you.
Many of you may have heard that Bishop George Battle has passed. I don't have the details yet on his funeral arrangements, but George was a very staunch supporter of the Tuesday Forum. And somebody suggested that there's a group of folk up there having a jolly good time, and a couple of folks may be in a little bit of a dispute. And I contend that Bob Walton was up there trying to convince St. Peter to let him DoorDash and fried chicken, because that kosher food ate to his liking. And George Battle is up there refereeing the fight between Phyllis and Sarah on who named this place.
Good morning. Beginning in May, I am teaching a course for the Union Presbyterian Seminary. Even though it's Union Presbyterian Seminary, it's open to everyone, and it's two topics that are very close to my heart. What I call the Black teaching tradition and the legacy of proclamation in the Black church. So, there was a time when Black teaching and Black preaching led to liberation. And I want to, in this course, it's an introductory course, to remind us that both Black teaching in K-12 schools and Black preaching were not divorced from liberation. And my research is on the Black teaching tradition, and I don't tell people often, my mom gets mad, but I am licensed ordained, so I don't go by Reverend Doctor, but I am Reverend Doctor. And this is sort of, to the presenter's point, God kind of bringing me back home. So when I left the church, there was someone who was like, you're gonna be back. You coming back. And so anyway, there is a nominal tuition fee. It is open to everyone. It's not overly religious per se, but really reminding us of how Black teaching in Black schools and Black preaching in Black churches can help us achieve liberation, because it has in the past.
Pop that pin right in school.
And I do have flyers if anyone's interested. Good morning, Io Johnson, Mental Health America. I just wanted to let everyone know that we are having a gala on Thursday, May 1st at the KC. And I'm bringing this up because, to Kim's point, when you are a Black CEO of an organization that has not traditionally been predominantly for people of color, MHA is 92 years old this year, and I'm the first long-term person of color to lead this organization. So I could really use everyone's support. You can see me afterwards for more information about the gala. And we also have our program booklet I'm taking ads for and sponsorships available for anyone that has a business that wants to be a sponsor. It's Thursday, May 1st.
So quickly, everybody, I'm Al Austin. I'm on the board of the Foundation for Black Philanthropy. We are in a grant cycle, and I believe it concludes March 31st. It is geared towards Black-led and Black-owned nonprofit organizations. So we're making sure that we're seeking out and making sure people know about this. So I got one that's already gonna apply, but we do make sure we have a good cause of people for us to select and give that money to. So March 31st is the deadline, Foundation for Black Philanthropy.
You got two applesauce group.
Okay. Maybe a third now. Hi y'all, I'm Alexis. I'm with the North Carolina Association of Educators. So the Charlotte-Mecklenburg chapter has started their campaign for the spring semester, and they're pushing a petition for mental health days, a higher supplement, and inclement weather pay. So bus drivers, cafeteria workers, TAs, when it snows and they don't come into school, they don't get paid. So the teachers are trying to push that to the school board. And I have the petition if anyone wants to sign. Okay.
I'm Robert Collins. I'm an author and motivational speaker, and I am a radio show host. So I just want to encourage and invite anyone to listen to my show. I air every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. WDRB Media, and King Kuntz was on twice in the last 4 weeks. And so if you're interested in being on the show, I'm here local in Charlotte, and love to share about your business or what you're doing in the area to help make this area better.
Thank you. Any more announcements?
Take food. Please take food. Take food home.
Have a wonderful week and come back next week to
Take a plate.
with Congresswoman Alma Adams. Thank you.